I'm Raina, compulsive overeater, and I do what you all do. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I write them down. I turn them over to my sponsor, and I don't eat no matter what. And gray sheet is the foundation of my life. It is the most important thing I do for myself to keep myself sane every day. And I I'll spend the first five trying to give you an idea of my history. I come from, was born in New York City. I was born in the Bronx, and I born to a lower middle class family. I was the only child. My mother had this disease. She had the disease of alcoholism, actively drinking throughout my childhood. I don't remember a time when she wasn't. Bottles hidden all over the house, and it was a uncomfortable and frightening time in my life. And the only thing that I found comforting was going into the kitchen and hitting the refrigerator or the cupboard for something to eat. That was my only consolation in a pretty unhappy situation. We lived in a 3-room apartment, 1 bedroom. My mother slept in the living room. My father slept in the bedroom. I slept in the bedroom as well, but I slept on the other side of the room. It was just an uncomfortable situation, and not the kind of situation a child should grow up in. My parents did the best they could, I will say that. And, despite the fact that it was a lot of dysfunction. And unfortunately, my mother was the kind of person that when she drank excessively, she'd get sick. So there was lots of trips to the hospital, lots of chaos, the ambulance in front of the house, them dragging her out, hemorrhaging all over the apartment. It's just a lot of nightmarish things when I was a kid. And, she did the best she could. She was a wonderful woman when she was sober, but that wasn't very often. That's not my memory anyway. But she taught me a lot. She taught me a love of art. And originally, I was going to be a designer, a dress designer and costume designer. And I really didn't like sewing. So, to not like sewing and be a dress designer just kind of wasn't going to work. But I did love to draw. I loved to draw. And that was another escape for me. I remember spending, we had a set of encyclopedias. And I remember taking an encyclopedia, going in the bathroom and spending hours in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet and just like looking through the magazines, the encyclopedia for interesting things to learn about. And I'd take my drawing pages in there, my paper, and I would just draw for hours in the bathroom just to escape both my mother and my father, and it was kind of the solace. And I also used to go into the bathroom and spend a lot of time eating. I remember sneaking carbohydrates under my shirt and taking them in the bathroom and eating them in the bathroom where nobody was going to judge me, because there was a lot of judgment. When I was in the 6th grade, I got a letter was sent home to my mother that obesity was a problem. I think I weighed about 195 pounds in the 6th grade. And so off we go to the doctor, and off, what do we do? When you're 11 years old and it's the 1960s. So boom, I wind up taking diet pills. So there I am, 11 years old, taking diet pills, going through, I don't even know that, I think I probably went through puberty about the same time. So I was a mess, but I did lose weight. And because I lost the weight, I felt like I was more normal. And everything that I considered normal was based on being a normal weight. And I never was a normal weight. I'd stay normal for, 5 minutes. And then I was off to the races again, because once I got normal, then I thought I could eat normally. And once I thought I could eat normally, well, you know what the result is. And I was not a 20 or a 30 pound gainer. I was a 100-pound gainer. And that was my past. All through junior high school, I was the biggest kid in the class. All through high school, biggest kid in the class. Did a lot of, in addition to any kind of diet pills I could get, I was also doing a lot of smoking of pot and and just, overeating like crazy. And when I was 16,
That was five, Raina. That was five.
thanks, hon. I wound up, my mother passed away. She was 50 years old. She died of alcoholism. And it was me and my dad. And I was kind of wild and crazy once my mother was out of the picture and my father was working and he had his own life. I was like wild and crazy. So a lot of drugs started to enter my life. And I got into college. I went to FIT in New York City and still studying art and illustration was the area I stayed in. And I wound up doing very well in school, despite the fact that I was cutting class like crazy, smoking pot in the bathroom, sitting in a cafeteria, carbohydrates and pot. That was kind of my 17, 18, 19 kind of years. And that graduated to heavier drugs. And as I started working, we got introduced to heavier drugs. We got introduced to more sophisticated diet pills because I like speed. I liked getting high. I enjoyed it. And I found that any escape was better than life as I was living it, and my weight was fluctuating somewhere between 240, 250, that kind of thing. And I wound up working, doing well in my career, despite the fact that I was overweight. I did well. And the more money I made, the more sophisticated the drugs became. I wound up in my mid-20s at a department store in New York City, Bloomingdale's, for those of you who are familiar with that store. I was an art director at Bloomingdale's, making nice money, doing drugs like crazy, Studio 54, drugs and whatnot. It was a crazy time. And it was a time for people to be compulsive and into addiction. It was perfectly okay to be, into addiction big time. And I was right there with them. I was 27 years old. I was told I was about 240, 250. And I got some advice from somebody to go to this church. And it was going to be different than anything I'd ever heard before. It wasn't a doctor. It was just a group of people and that I should sit and listen. And I walked into my first OA meeting. And that was 1977. And I was in and out of OA. I had a year of success. I dated while I was in OA, another man in OA. And that was my first mistake. And we lived together for a year. And I thought I died and went to heaven because it was like so normal. We lived together. It was great. We would go to meetings together. And then he decided that I shouldn't be in his life anymore. And the way I dealt with that was to walk away from the program completely. And then it took me, I guess, about a year or so, maybe longer, to finally go back to OA again and go to other meetings. And, I was over him at that point. And, but in the interim, I had gained all the weight back and I wound up crawling back, but I just couldn't get it. I needed more than regular OA was going to provide me. I needed more structure. I needed more. And those people that were successful in OA at that time were doing GreySheet. They weren't doing it the way we do it, but they were doing a form of GreySheet, which meant no carbohydrates whatsoever because there was a sensitivity issue. And I couldn't even think about going on GreySheet. There were other food plans. I was staying on those food plans. I was not giving up my carbohydrates. I was just learning to be normal with them. And as we well know, I can't be normal with anything because I couldn't be normal even with what I was being given. I was taking everything that I could take in excess. So I wound up, I think we got to 1985. And then I finally I got a phone call from somebody in the community who said to me, you should really go check this meeting out. And I went to my first GreySheet meeting. And I walked into a room of thin, beautiful, young, committed women who stood up and said their mantra and said that they didn't eat no matter what, and said that they took their scale with them in a bag and they took it with them to wherever they went, restaurants, dinner parties.
5 minutes left, Raina. 5 minutes left.
Okay, catered affairs, everything. And I thought, oh my God, these people are crazy. I don't want to do this. But I did it. And I did it for a while and I lost the weight and the red carpet rolled out in my life and I got the big job in Connecticut and I wound up moving to Connecticut. They gave me a big loan and I got the big house and I had the husband who I met actually at my very first meeting. And I had the 2 dogs and I thought I had the life. I thought I was normal. And it didn't take me long to gain 100 pounds because I left the program because I left to go to Connecticut. And it took me another 4 or 5 years to crawl back and find out that there was, in fact, a Grey Sheet meeting in Connecticut. And I spent the rest of my time learning about honesty, learning about surrender, learning about what it takes. Excuse me, let me just get rid of this person. And I finally found a slow but steady realization that what I was doing was just never going to work, that I needed to have the structure that Grey Sheet provided. I needed to stay away from carbohydrates in any form because they were going to set a craving up and I was going to be off to the races. Once that craving kicked in, I was someone else. I became that addict and there was just nobody stopping me. So I went on the food plan again. I got the most loving sponsor. I struggled and I struggled. As I said, I came into my first Grey Sheet meeting in 1985. I finally got the abstinence that I currently have, which I'm so incredibly grateful for, in 2005. So there was 20 years there of resistance, dishonesty, anger, wishing I was normal, trying to sneak extra somethings, but it wasn't going to work. And it didn't work. Every time I thought I could do it, I was proven wrong. And I finally left the company that I was working for. I had a huge job in New York City in a major department store. I was a vice president and I was 55 and they let me go. And off I went, no job. I was sitting home in this big house in Connecticut. And I thought, if I don't do something with myself, I don't know what I'll do. So I wound up going to AA meetings every morning, 7:30. I was at that church, at that meeting. And when I wasn't at AA meetings, I was at Grey Sheet meetings in Connecticut. And that's how I got that abstinence that I really needed. I put that first in my life. And it made the difference. It made me see where I was dishonest, see where I needed to get better, where I needed to surrender, where I needed to make phone calls, where I needed to get humble. And then, I guess about 4 years ago, I went to a retreat and I finally got the one piece that I needed to get, which was a spiritual connection, which I was sort of very much on the fence about. And I found out that there was a book that I could read that could give me some instruction, because I need instruction. I need instruction with my food. I need instruction and limits. I'm very, very committed to this program. And I know that I've gotten through all of that because of my relationship with my higher power, because of my strength with all of you, with all of the connections I make on Zoom. So I'm before I go on for another 10 minutes, which I shouldn't be doing, I will shut up now and say thank you for listening. And we're abstinent no matter what. Thanks. Bye.